Tonight on Reporting Scotland, disruption on the railways. ScotRail cuts 600 services from the timetable due to a shortage of drivers amid a dispute over pay.
We were supposed to be getting the train from Glasgow to Fort William and then going on to Glencoe, and the 12:20 whatever cancelled.
I'm not very happy about it. Not very happy that we had to sit and hang out and wait for no reason.
And a warning from the head of the Train Drivers Union that their pay dispute could be echoed across the public sector. Also on tonight's programme, we're out with the team working to give people better options than A&E.
Not every patient requires to go into the emergency department and sit in for a wee while when they can receive that care elsewhere.
The ambulance service says more than 50,000 unnecessary ambulance journeys have been saved in the last year. Heavy rain is causing flooding in Peterhead and other areas of northeast Scotland. We'll have the very latest.
Coming up in the sport, we look ahead to the Scottish Open, kick-starting 2 huge weeks of golf with the biggest stars in the sport arriving in Scotland. And how the Flying Scotsman Eric Liddell is still inspiring athletes of all ages 100 years after he won Olympic gold in Paris. Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. With the school summer holidays well underway, it's a time when more people are travelling. But there are fewer trains than normal on many routes. ScotRail have started running an emergency timetable. It follows disruption caused by a shortage of drivers available to work overtime and on rest days. So what does that mean? Well, there's been a reduction in 600 services. For example, peak time services from Glasgow to Edinburgh have been halved to 2 every hour. The Drivers' Union, ASLEF, will decide soon whether to hold a ballot for industrial action over pay. Our reporter Joanne Macaulay has more.
Catching a bus was not what these international visitors intended when they booked a rail holiday in Scotland. But that's what they had to do when they discovered their train from Glasgow to Fort William was one of the cancelled services.
We'll survive. It's not the ideal start to our holiday, day 1 of our train journey around Scotland. Just hope it gets better from here.
You know, it wasn't too much of a surprise. We saw it kind of coming, but you know, it was a little bit of an inconvenience, but we're figuring it out.
I'm not very happy about it. Not very happy that we had to sit and hang out and wait for no reason. But it's nobody's fault because people like to have an increase in salary.
Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, locals found their travel plans had also been disrupted.
It is very inconvenient. We just got an email this morning that our train that we had scheduled has been cancelled, so it is definitely inconvenient.
I was hoping to travel from Inverness to Garve with my bike on Friday, but the train to Garve has now been cancelled.
At the end of the day, I can get there a different way. It's not the end of the world for me.
The services have been temporarily cut because of a lack of train drivers. Many are choosing not to work overtime, following what the unions describe as a derisory pay offer. They're warning the disruption could spread further with a ballot on industrial action.
If we can't resolve this matter, we'll be in dispute by the end of August, beginning of September. If we call for a 24-hour strike or a 48-hour strike, depending what decision is made, there'll be no train running that day. But we're not the only union doing this. Our colleagues in the RMT, TSSA and Unite are all doing the exact same. So Scotland's Railways is facing its biggest industrial relations problems probably in the last 40 years.
The Scottish Government's transport agency, Transport Scotland, says ScotRail has the responsibility to negotiate within the limits of public sector pay metrics. It's encouraging rail unions to continue meaningful dialogue with ScotRail for a mutually agreeable outcome. ScotRail says reducing the services was to ensure more reliability for passengers, and it's hoping to resolve the issue soon.
At ScotRail, we are absolutely committed to coming to a deal with our hard-working staff that's fair to them and that's fair to the taxpayers and financially sustainable. We're committed to working with all 4 trade unions, and we're looking to get a date in the diary over coming weeks to resume our talks.
Train services are likely to be busy in the coming days because of events like Transmit in Glasgow, the Jazz Festival in Edinburgh and the Scottish Open in East Lothian. And with a reduced timetable, there could be even more pressure on the services that are running. Joanne Macaulay reporting, Scotland, Edinburgh.
Our news correspondent Jamie McIver joins us now. Jamie, I suppose what many people will be wondering is how long is this likely to go on?
And I'm afraid all I can say is we simply don't know, because this timetable is going to run indefinitely. ScotRail's only going to return to its normal timetable once drivers start making themselves available to work overtime or work on rest days in significant numbers again. And it's highly unlikely that we're going to see that until there's been some movement in this pay dispute. Now, the offer that was rejected by the unions last week, it was a 3-year offer. It would have seen a 2% rise each April and a further 1% rise each January. Now, ScotRail makes a point that offer is in line with public sector pay policy, and any significant improvement to that offer would need to be signed off by senior figures in the Scottish Government. How likely is a significant shift in the offer? Well, it's worth making the point that any shift in the offer to rail workers could set a precedent for other public sector workers. Council refuse workers in many parts of the country are expected to go on strike next month over pay, and there's still no deal on teachers' pay. Inflation may have fallen, but public sector unions are still after better pay rises for their members. OK, Jamie, many thanks indeed. A man's been arrested following the attempted murder of a police officer in Edinburgh. The incident involving a stolen car took place at a petrol station on Stenhouse Road in the west of the city last night. Police say damage was done to several vehicles in the area and are asking any witnesses to come forward. Richard Forbes reports.
Just after 7 o'clock yesterday evening, a Mercedes car was reportedly stolen from Gorgie. That's just a bit further down the road here. At the time the car was taken, there was already a 16-year-old passenger in the vehicle. He managed to get out uninjured a short time later. Now, 20 minutes after that, the car was at this petrol station. That's when a 32-year-old male police officer who'd been on foot was seriously injured. Members of the public came forward to help him until the ambulance arrived. He was taken to Edinburgh Royal Infirmary for treatment and has been released. Now, a 27-year-old man has been arrested and charged with attempted murder, abduction, theft of a motor vehicle and other road traffic offences. He's expected to appear at Edinburgh Sheriff Court tomorrow.
Richard Forbes reporting there. Heavy rain throughout the northeast has been causing travel disruption this afternoon. A section of the A90 is currently closed at Bodham due to the conditions, and a diversion is in place. Many roads have been described as impassable, particularly around Peterhead, Fraserburgh and Mintlaw. Well, Phil McDonald joins us now. Phil, what more can you tell us?
Well, it's been pouring down all day here in Peterhead, and as you can see behind me, it's led to flooding in some residential areas such as this one. We've seen cars struggling to get through the huge puddles that have been forming on the roads. It's been a nightmare evening for commuters as well. The A90 currently shut in both directions around Bodham, and we've seen cars stuck in big queues trying to get through. It's put a stop to some events as well. The pre-season football friendly between Aberdeen and Peterhead that was due to be played at nearby Balmoor Stadium called off in the interest of fans' safety, and sadly it's left some homeowners here counting the cost of damage to their properties.
Has something like this happened before?
Just at the bottom end of my garden, just a little puddle, but nothing like this ever. And I've been here for 6.5 years. It's never been, this is, I don't know, I'm lost for words.
You're gutted, I can tell.
Aye.
Now, the bad weather is expected to continue for some time yet. A Met Office yellow warning for rain in towns like Peterhead up to Fraserburgh and all the way out to Elgin is to remain in place until 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and SEPA has issued a flood alert for Aberdeen City and Shire. Now, the BBC weather team has told us that it's likely that a month's worth of rain for July has fallen today, and with more rain expected overnight, it's likely to be a worrying evening and night for people here in Peterhead.
OK, Phil, many thanks indeed. And of course, we'll have a full weather forecast towards the end of the programme. Some of the day's other stories now, and detectives have named a man who died after a disturbance in a flat in Troon. Callum Pollock, who was 22, was discovered in a property in Ramsey Court in the town's Scott Crescent just after 11:30 on Saturday night. Police Scotland say he was pronounced dead at the scene. A 34-year-old has been arrested and charged in connection with his death and appeared before Ayr Sheriff Court on Monday. A rapist who abused and scammed £214,000 from 9 women he met online has been jailed for 12 years. 37-year-old Christopher Harkins used Facebook and the dating app Tinder to target his victims across Scotland over a 6-year period. The gambling addict stole some of the women's identities to access payday loans and forced one to create an online betting account in her name. Police Scotland described the conman as a violent and contemptible individual. The family of a 3-year-old girl who died after being hit by a car in Fife have settled a civil action against the driver. Robin Knox was critically injured by a blue Nissan Micra in Townhill near Dunfermline in 2020. The driver was never prosecuted, but civil action was raised by Robin's family. The case has now settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. Now, every day the Scottish Ambulance Service responds to thousands of calls for help, but they say 50% of 999 calls don't actually require the patient to be transferred to an emergency department. Now action is being taken to cut down on thousands of unnecessary journeys to A&E by helping patients get the right care. The service say since last April, more than 50,000 unnecessary ambulance journeys have been saved. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers has been spending time with the Scottish Ambulance Service and sent this special report.
Yes, it's for ambulance service. Is the patient breathing?
I'm organising help for you just now. Please stay on the line.
OK, tell me exactly what's happened.
78-year-old male on the floor, right hip pain. I'll put all the details on your screen.
It's shaping up to be a busy day for the ambulance service.
3725, morning to you. Allocating you to a red call, please.
Patients calling 999 for help, but there are only so many ambulances on the road.
We are already still seeing crews starting to stack at our sort of most problematic hospitals. So if you look at Edinburgh at the moment, we've got currently 6 vehicles sitting outside, and up in Aberdeen, which is another problem hospital for ourselves, 7 now sitting at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary.
For a 26-year-old male, he is conscious and breathing. He's having chest pains and he's collapsed. I will get a crew to back you up as soon as one comes available.
Yeah, that's no worries.
One way the ambulance service is trying to relieve that pressure is by sending specially trained paramedics to assess patients to say if they really need to go to A&E.
Not every patient requires to go into the emergency department, so it's really trying to find alternative pathways for them to receive the right care at the right place, and not be in the emergency department and sitting for a wee while when they can receive that care elsewhere. Hiya. Your pulse is fine, all right, so that's just something that we look out for.
Danny's assessed this patient who collapsed at a supermarket. She wants to book him into hospital for further checks, but no need to go to A&E.
Am I able to speak to a consultant or somebody to try and get a patient into same-day emergency care, please? So I've just spoke to one of the nurse practitioners there. Yep. Happy to see you up there. As I say, it's a department that you can get the right care, really, instead of you going through emergency department.
The service says around half of 999 calls don't need to see a patient rush to A&E.
Gareth, I have 3 ambers stuck in, and 4th amber's come in that's a child, a 2-year-old.
You want me to give him a call?
Could you give them a call back for me, please?
We got your number.
Back in the control room, clinical staff, including GPs and nurses, assess non-life-threatening calls. That saves some ambulances being dispatched unnecessarily. But demand is so high, this control room is dealing with up to 2,000 999 calls a day.
It's heartbreaking to see people in the back of ambulances waiting for 2 reasons. We know that patient's not getting great care in the back of an ambulance parked outside a hospital, and we also know there's another patient somewhere else that needs that ambulance outside their house. So it is really challenging, and it stresses our crews out enormously. But it is the situation, and we just need to make the best of it. And the best way is to try and not take a patient to hospital if they don't need to go.
Resources continue to be stretched, but the hope is these alternative routes will help get patients the best care for them.
And Lisa joins us now. Lisa, some welcome positive news about how the health service is managing demand, but I suppose is the fact that people are calling 999 an indication that they feel that they can't get help elsewhere?
Well, that's right. I mean, when I was in the control room, half of the available ambulances in Aberdeen were stuck outside the hospital. So it just shows how much pressure they're under. And I think the ambulance service would say, and they'd be quite honest about the fact that what they're doing isn't going to solve all the problems that they have. But if they can use that expertise to save one patient from having to go to hospital, it's better for them. And it's also one more ambulance back on the road. But really, the immense volume of calls that they're dealing with is an indication of just how stretched the whole of the NHS is, because they don't know, patients don't know where to go, but they just call 999. It shows that GPs are under pressure, hospitals are under pressure, social care's under pressure. How to fix it? Well, that is a huge question. We've got a new Labour government in Westminster who are promising more money for the NHS in England. That should translate into some more money for the Scottish government to spend. But actually, most experts will say it will take a lot more than just some more money to turn the NHS around.
OK, Lisa, many thanks indeed. It's 100 years since the Flying Scotsman, Eric Liddell, won gold at the Paris Olympics. Famously, he'd switched from his favoured 100-metre race because it went against his religious beliefs to compete on a Sunday. Athletes and relatives have been sharing stories about the man and his legacy, worried that many younger Scots don't know about the legend. Maura Kinniburgh has this report.
100 years since Eric Liddell won Olympic gold, a group of student fundraisers recreated his training runs at St Andrews, made famous in the Chariots of Fire film. Eric Liddell stepped away from his preferred 100-metre sprint because the heats were held on a Sunday, a rest day for the devout Christian. He won gold in the 400 metres instead and broke the world record.
He was very inspirational as a Scot because to run what he did on cinder tracks is unbelievable. Eric was a legend. When you delve into his Christianity and his missionary work, and you know, the rugby player, I'm certainly in awe of him in respect to putting all this together. And I think that you shouldn't forget great athletes and what they've achieved. But in this instance, this is just a bit more than being an athlete and winning an Olympic gold medal.
On your marks, get set, go!
This Border Sports Day, like others in Scotland this summer, reflected Eric Liddell's legacy. Race centenary organisers keen to teach youngsters more about him.
I didn't know anything before, but I know that he ran in 47.6 seconds.
What do you think about what he did?
Very good.
He was a very passionate man, and he should be remembered, always remembered for what he has achieved. The more compassionate you are, the more that you get to do, and the more that you probably hopefully win.
The Flying Scotsman remains inspirational on and off the track.
Talking to any sprinter today, if they were to choose an event to do, it would never be the 400 metres. You know, it's known as one of the hardest events. So for him to then train for that, and it is very different training to do that, to win in the fashion that he did and, you know, run the fastest time in history at that moment was, just something that's incredible. I think it just shows not only his physical capabilities, but also that mindset to be like, this isn't going to be a barrier for me, I'm just going to go and do that.
This Edinburgh Community Centre continues Liddell's vision of helping others. He returned to China and missionary work, but his reputation as a serious man seems unfounded.
He was quite mischievous because Auntie Flo, who was his wife, told us some nice stories about how, you know, he was a joker, and particularly the one about his middle daughter called Heather. And they were drawing lots for the name, and so he put them in the cup, and of course the name Heather came out because he'd written Heather on all of them.
Running made Liddell famous. He played rugby for Scotland too and left a legacy of care, compassion and integrity. Maura Kinniburgh, reporting Scotland.
Remembering Eric Liddell. Well, let's get tonight's sport with Lewis. Olympics not far off, actually.
That whets the appetite a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A gold would have been nice, but plenty on the go until then.
Exactly, Laura. Absolutely. And it's all getting started this weekend. Thanks very much. Hello there. Yes, we begin with golf. And Robert McIntyre says he's the calmest he's ever felt ahead of a Scottish Open as he aims to go one better than last year and clinch the title. Meanwhile, defending champion Rory McIlroy says he's learned lessons from his US Open collapse at Pinehurst. The event returns to East Lothian just a week before the Open Championship in Troon. Here is Sheila McLaren.
It's the biggest 2 weeks on the Scottish golfing calendar. A world-class field is here in North Berwick before heading to Troon for the Open Championship next week. And fans of all ages are looking forward to the action.
How excited are you about seeing all your favourite players here?
Really excited. Really excited.
Who's your favourite?
Victor Hovland.
Yeah? And what are you looking forward to this week?
Probably going round to see all the players.
And do you think Bob can do it for Scotland?
Yeah.
I think it's great. Yeah, this is the first time I've been down here because I'm from Nairn, and I've seen the Scottish Open at Castle Stewart when they played there. But this is the first time I've been down here to the Renaissance, and it's lovely.
Last year's tournament was so dramatic, a plaque was installed on the 18th to mark the route to Rory McIlroy's last gasp win over home favourite Robert McIntyre. The Northern Irishman is looking to be the first to successfully defend the title, and after recent disappointment in the US Open, he's determined to make this fortnight count.
I had some good chats with people close to me, and I as you start to think about not just Sunday at Pinehurst, but the whole way throughout the week, there was a couple of things that I noticed that I wanted to try to work on over the last few weeks coming into here, and obviously next week at Troon. So they were hard, but at the same time, like as each day went by, it became easier to focus on the positives.
As for McIntyre, the last 12 months have seen him pack in a Ryder Cup win and a maiden victory on the PGA Tour.
To be honest, I think I said it to Mike out there, this is probably the most calm I've been coming into it. It's not been as frantic. Things have been under control. Yeah, my game's been up and down, but it's been up and down my whole golfing life. But this is the one that, as a Scot, I really want.
Around 80,000 spectators are going to be here over the next few days, with 5,000 going to be sitting in here, the stadium, on the par 3 6th hole. Will they see the first home winner since Colin Montgomerie 25 years ago? We'll find out on Sunday night. Sheila McLaren, reporting Scotland at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick.
Some football transfer news now, and Dundee have signed Ross County striker Simon Murray on a 3-year contract. Murray moves to Dens Park for the second time in his career, having previously played there on loan in 2018. He scored 23 goals for County last season and helped keep the Highlands club in the Premiership. The 32-year-old says one of the reasons he's made the move is to be closer to his family. And you can keep up to date with all the transfer news on the BBC Sport website. Now, new St Johnstone owner Adam Webb says he understands there will be trepidation among supporters following his takeover, but that he's aiming to grow the club on and off the pitch. The Atlanta-based lawyer completed his purchase of the Perth club this week, bringing Jeff Brown's lengthy ownership of 38 years to an end.
The business of football is very challenging, and if you go in it to make money, it's a fool's errand. We're not here to make a quick buck. I do think, however, we intend to grow this club, and if 20 or 30 years from now we are moving on, then I would hope that we built something fantastic. We're going to grow modestly the player budget. We're going to grow modestly the other aspects of the club that allow us to support both a higher player budget in the men's program, more resources for the women's team, and of course a better academy that will help feed the first team.
Rugby now, and Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend admits that his side's forgettable defeat to the USA 6 years ago formed part of his team selection as he picks an entirely new starting 15 from the side that beat Canada last weekend. Adam Hastings returns to the team for the match in Washington DC, while vice-captain Jamie Ritchie will win his 50th cap. It's Scotland's first meeting with America since that loss in 2018, with games against Chile and Uruguay to follow.
That was mentioned in the change room in Ottawa straight after the game. It's a more experienced team, obviously. There was 10 new caps the weekend. But those 10 new caps and the 23 put a really good marker down for what we're expecting out of our performance, what we're expecting around the detail of our game. So it's up to these players to take that to another level.
Yeah, so plenty to look forward to this weekend, Laura. The golf is obviously where it's all happening, and we'll have plenty more of that over the coming
looking
days.
Forward to that. Thank you very much, Lewis.
Thank you.
Now it's over to Stephen Jardine to find out what's happening on debate night.
For our first show since the general election, debate night is going to be in Mary Hill this evening. Our studio audience will put their questions to a panel including Scottish Labour's Pam Duncan-Glancy, Thomas Kerr from the Scottish Conservatives, Ben McPherson from the SNP, journalist Kevin McKenna and Professor Nicola McEwen from the Centre for Public Policy. That's debate night with me, poring over the general election result, 10:30 on the BBC Scotland channel.
Time now for the weather with Christopher, and we saw in Peterhead they've had an awful lot of rain. What's the picture like overnight for them?
It is an improving picture, but you're right, we have seen an awful lot of rain around today, particularly in the northeast. Great big picture here. Looks like October, will have felt like October, but of course we know it's July and some parts of the country a month's worth of rain. Thank you, Laura. Very good evening to you. Yeah, really miserable conditions across some parts of the country today, as we heard earlier in the programme. Let me show you the satellite and radar from earlier. You can see the culprit, this great big slab of rain in the northeast, a weather system that was just stationary, just stayed overhead and led to all of those issues. We still have a Met Office yellow warning in force until 4 a.m. because there is further rainfall to come, so further issues with flooding. But the general picture is that it's an improving story overnight, with that rain tending to ease off. Elsewhere, cloudy and temperatures in towns and cities 9 to 12 Celsius. Still a brisk north wind around northern coast too. Now, what about the next few days? Well, for the end of the week, it's a little bit quieter, certainly a good bit drier, but still fairly cloudy. Here's first thing tomorrow. We've still got the legacy of today's rain affecting parts of the north and northeast, but that patchy rain easing away. Some brighter skies in the northwest, just filtering south through the day. A few showers down towards the Solway there, but for many areas, it's a largely dry picture tomorrow, a largely cloudy picture. 16 to 18 Celsius, about the best we'll see through the central belt. Further north, dry and bright across the northwest, still cloudy in the northeast with a few showers, still cold. 13 degrees, about the best we'll see. Should be closer to 20, really. And once again, those brisk north winds with us around the north coast. Into tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, clearing skies, so cooler than this coming night. That takes us to Friday, and there will be some brighter skies through central Scotland set to develop. A line of showers across the far northwest in towards the Western Isles there, and in the best of the sunshine through west central Scotland, 20 degrees. Now, this weekend, it's Transmit, big music festival, Glasgow Green. Probably Friday the best day of weather, some sunshine coming through. Generally, throughout the piece, it's rather cloudy. The chance of 1 or 2 showers, but it shouldn't be a washout, fingers crossed. Here's Saturday, and you can see once again a lot of cloud around, highs of 19 degrees in the west, 1 or 2 showers in places at times too. That's the forecast for now.
Lots of fingers crossed, Christopher. Thank you very much indeed. Anne McAlpine will be here with your late news from all of us. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.